Having a product or service you offer doesn't guarantee that you're actually going to make sales in your business. What it really comes down to is your positioning. Today, I'm going to teach you what God has taught me about how to position yourself in the marketplace. So that way you can start seeing the sales that you want to see in your business. Now, when it comes to positioning, we must first understand that positioning is really about how you set yourself apart from others that are within your industry. And this really comes down to you building a brand, and more specifically, you building out a brand identity. See, every product has a brand, and every product has a way that others can identify them, and that is through them creating a brand identity. Now, how this connects to you is that you have to understand that you are first God's product. So yes, He has called you to build a business, but first you must know that you are God's product. Now, how do I know this? Because in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, it says, "For we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." Now, when you look up the definition of workmanship, actually means the degree of skill with which a product is made or a job is done. Now, that tells you right there that we are God's product. In some Bible versions, it says that we are even God's masterpiece. And a masterpiece is equated to an art piece, right? So that means that we are God's product. And when God created you, He set you apart as His product, and He set you apart for a particular purpose. And that particular purpose is described in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10 as good works. And this is something that He predestined you for, prepared you for beforehand so that you would be able to walk in them. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is that God has really taught me that when it comes to building out a business, you must first look at yourself as God's product before you start creating and selling anything that He has told you to sell, because essentially what He's telling you to sell is what He has placed inside of you. So that's the gifts, that's the skill, whatever it is that He has placed inside of you. That's how you're going to make the impact. But it comes down to how you position yourself as the product so that you can set yourself apart from others that are within your industry. Now, going back to what I said, every product has a brand and every brand has a brand identity. And so that means that you must learn how to build out a brand, and more specifically, how to build out a brand identity. Now, I want to show you what this looks like with just products that we see every day on the market. And I'm going to share with you how this compares to us as being ones that are created in God's image, ones that are of God's workmanship and His product. So now I want to share with you what this looks like with actual products. So here I have Smartwater, and here I have water from Kroger, okay? Now, when we look at these two, we know that both of these are products, right? They're within the same industry, which is water. Kroger is a little bit more, they have a grocery store, but they have a product, right? That is water that they sell in their store. Smartwater has their own product. So when we look at Smartwater, we can see that Smartwater has set themselves apart from Kroger by how they visually look. So we can see here the label is a lot more minimalistic. We can see that even the rounding of the water bottle is different. It's taller. So what they have done is they have set themselves apart to say, hey, we don't just sell water. We actually sell vapor distilled water along with our water offering electrolytes, right? Now, someone who cares about having electrolytes, someone who really cares about their body, more for the person who is maybe more athletic, more for the person who cares about having those electrolytes. Now, you can see this because in the back in the day when Smartwater first launched, one of the things that they did was they had athletes with the Smartwater. They had people that had a big name as their brand ambassadors to sell this idea that the water that they were offering offered electrolytes. And we know that if you're an athlete, you most likely want to have some type of electrolytes going through your body. Everyone does, but if you're probably moving around more than the average person, you want to make sure that you have some electrolytes, right? And so they have positioned themselves to be different amongst others that are within their industry in terms of other water companies to say, hey, we offer this where you can get our water and you're going to receive electrolytes. And on top of that, it looks like you can receive more water in our bottle. And they've even made their label look so clean and so minimalist. Okay. Now, by them doing this positioning has actually allowed them to charge more than other companies that are within their industry. So I'm sure if you guys went to the store to get a Smartwater, it's probably somewhere between that $2 to $3 mark, compared to if you go get a Kroger water, you can get an entire pack of water for around $3, depending on where you're at. So this is how they have positioned themselves, and this is how they have set themselves apart, and they have created a brand around them being known for having water that offers electrolyte, that's that high value. They have established that identity visually of how their product looks and what even their water tastes like, right? And knowing also that they are more of an expensive brand. Now let's compare this to Kroger. So when it comes to Kroger, Kroger has set themselves apart by being known as a brand that you can go to, a store that you can go to when you want to get affordable groceries, right? Now, yes, this water is part of the actual brand of Kroger, but the thing about it is that they have basically said, hey, we offer purified water, and the same price that you would pay for a Smartwater or for a Fiji water, you actually can pay that same price and get an entire pack. And so this is more for the consumer who is more price conscious, the consumer who, is maybe has a family and doesn't want to spend that much money. And so this also is visible even in their visual marketing. Okay. So here we can see in the visual identity of this water bottle, the way that it visually looks, they just have a label, right? It says Kroger and it says here purified drinking water. Okay. So they have positioned themselves to be more of the affordable brand, targeting consumers who are more price conscious. Smartwater has positioned themselves to be a product and brand that is more targeted to the one who cares about the electrolytes. They don't mind spending more money because they care about those things. These two offer the same thing, but they have basically set themselves apart by saying, hey, yes, we are all still within the same industry when it comes to water, but our product is actually different because our product, yes, it's water, but it also gives you electrolytes. It also is vapor distilled, right? Kroger is saying, hey, we offer purified water. Our product is different because you are able to get that water that is purified, but it's at a more affordable cost, right? Now, how does this compare to you? When God called you to start your business, you have to understand that just like you see this Smartwater, just like you see this Kroger water, you are a product. Okay. So for example, if God called you to start a health coaching business, yes, there are probably 1,000 other health coaches that are out there. But the thing is, it comes down to how you position yourself. And that comes by you building a brand. So most brands have a brand identity. And all of this consists of you having a personality, of you having a voice, of you having a tone, a brand story, the way that you communicate with your audience, right? You have all of these things that God has created within you. You have a specific voice, right? Your voice is unique compared to others, right? There's a certain way that you speak. You have a unique story because oftentimes God will actually use stories in our lives to actually push us to start a business so that business can be birthed out of us, right? You have something that is within you because it's all based on the way that God designed you from the beginning. So when it comes to positioning, it is about you really formulating a brand identity. It comes down to you tapping into your original design. Now, the reason why I specify original design is because, yes, there are many people that are saying, yes, just create a brand identity and create it based on what you want, because a brand is really how people perceive you and the reputation that you want others to receive from you when they look at you, right? But the reality is that if you're not truly operating in the original design, so let's say you're the Smartwater and this is the way that God originally designed you from the outside, and on the inside, he's made you quirky, he's made you unique, maybe you have a goofy personality. If you're not operating in that original design, and I'm talking about that design that he set apart before the foundation of the world that he created, and you go out to the marketplace and you begin to start building a brand and it's not tied to your original design, which is essentially you showing up in your authentic self, your true self, then essentially what you're doing is you're building a false brand identity. And the reason why this is so important is because you have to understand that the way that God designed you is connected to your identity. Now, remember, I said that you are a brand because you are God's product and you have a personal identity in Christ. That personal identity is what God has called you to do. You being the brand is equivalent to the product that you are. The identity, brand identity, is equivalent to the product of you and your personal identity and what God has called you to do, the purpose he has given you. If we look at the Smartwater, the product itself is the water, right? The brand itself is Smartwater, right? But what gives it its identity and its shape is the fact that it is vapor distilled, the fact that it has electrolytes. It's the inside of this, right? And then it's also the visual piece. It's the design of the actual product itself that gives this, okay? Now, I know we have heard it from the perspective of you ever done research on brand identity. Most people just stick to only just the logos, the colors, and all of these things when they talk about brand identity to set yourself apart. But the way that God has taught me is that really you have a brand identity as well. And the brand identity that you have is actually tied to the personal identity that he has given you as you being his product. So this is why if you're in business, it's important that you learn how to position yourself, and that's through you creating a brand. When God set you apart, that's part of your destiny. Okay. Destiny is actually connected to the inheritance that you want. When you're looking for clientele, you're actually asking God to release the inheritance that he gave you before the foundation of the world, which we can see this in Ephesians when Paul talked about the spiritual blessings that we have and the inheritance that we have been given. Okay. So if God called you to start that business and he says, I want you to start a business, you have to understand that he set you apart to be a business owner, and that is connected to your destiny. Okay. Now, destiny is connected to identity. Okay. Identity is the purpose that he has given you, right? It is how he has formulated you, right? It is what makes you unique, okay? Now, that identity is also connected to the way he has designed you. He has designed you in such a unique way. And once you begin to go back to the actual original you, the true you, then you can start driving sales into your business, because the importance is that you show up in your authentic self. When you show up in your authentic self, there's an attraction of the audience that you have been looking for. It's a release of your inheritance essentially through the clients. That is what it is. And this comes by way of you building a powerful brand identity, but you have to know who you are. See, there are people that have built brands, but they built a brand that's caused them to hustle and to toil and to do all of these things. It is only when you go back to your original design that you're able to actually break free from that worldly perspective that you need to hustle and that you need to toil, because it was never God's plan for us to hustle and toil for us to make a living. It was just never his intention. And the way that you have to look at this, and the way that God has given me understanding around this, is that it comes down to the Bible verse that says that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. So it's only when you know the true you and you begin to show up in the true you, not the you that you want to put on the show, the you that you want others to think you are. That's not going to give you freedom, and it's not going to draw the ideal client that you want. Now, you might be drawing some clients, but they're probably not the ideal client that you want. It's only when you show up in the true you, knowing who you truly are in Christ, showing up in your authentic self, the way he designed you, will you be able to attract the audience that you're looking for, the audience that God predestined for you. Because you have to understand, whatever he has placed inside of you, if he told you that he wants you to build a business and he's placed something inside of you for you to build that business from, he's also placed a need inside of someone else that will need the service that you are offering. So it's only then when you show up in your true self that your ideal client, which your ideal clients are the people that you've been called to serve, that you have what they need, will be attracted to you. This is how you get out of the hustling and the toiling, because it's you just operating in your true self. It's you operating in destiny. That is what it is. And essentially what we do here at Design with a Purpose is we help people create a profitable business rooted in their identity and design in God, in Christ Jesus. That's how we do it. And we help them by way of the method that God has given me. That is a powerful method when it comes to building out a brand, and more specifically, a brand identity. And brand identity is not just logos and colors and visuals and what they have taught. No, it's more than that. So if you know that you've been struggling to get your business off the ground, I want to invite you to attend my free masterclass on April 22nd, where I will be teaching you how to create a profitable business in under 60 days. I'm going to cover 3 key topics. It is what makes an irresistible offer, how to choose your ideal target audience. The other one is also going to be how to choose the product or service that you want to offer in your business. So if this sounds like something that you're interested in, go ahead and click that link below so that you can get registered and you can join our free masterclass. Also, if you know that there's someone who can also utilize this class, feel free to share that link with them as well. And last but not least, if you enjoyed what you heard and you want to learn more about how to create a profitable business without the hustling, without the toiling, but doing it God's way, then go ahead and click that subscribe button. And thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.